Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another triple threat battle to the death for you. Today we have what I'm calling big knives for big cheapskates. These are all large knives in that over 3.5 but under 4-inch blade length range that all retail for under $40. We have the Kershaw Skyline XL, the Rat Model 1 in D2 steel, and the Byrd Cara 2 with the G10 handles. We're going to get right into the overview and the stats of each knife. We're going to start out with Age Before Beauty, because this has been around for quite a long time. The Cara 2, a lot of people love it. It's been around for very long, and they make it in a bunch of different versions because Byrd is a division of Spyderco. They're not Chinese knockoffs of Spyderco's. I've heard some people think that. They are absolutely not. They are owned by Spyderco. They're authorized. They're just Chinese, cheaper versions of some of their other knives. This is very similar to an Endura. Comes in a lot of different handle combinations, and only the one steel, which is 8CR 13 MLV. But it is similar in overall feel and design to an Endura, but a lot cheaper. This one, particularly in the G10, is $39.95, and that's the one that price-wise compares the most to the other two, so that's the one I chose for it. They do make it with an FRN handle, which is like $20, and they make it in the stainless steel, which is I think about $30. They even make it in a titanium handle. They make it in a whole bunch of different things, but this is the one I think that compares the most to the other knives that are in here, so it's the one that I chose. Very cool knife. And next up, well, I guess we'll continue with the age thing. This is the Rat Model 1, which, as I said, this is the D2 steel version. It's been around for quite a while. They came out with the D2, I think, way early in 2017 or late 2016, something like that. But they've been making it in other versions for a long time. I have this is the AUS 8, the original one, which you can see is identical except for the blade steel. It does come in a few other colors. It comes in various shades of drab, your beiges, your greens, stuff like that. I actually did see a pink one. I think they have a pink one. So it comes in a lot of different colors, but they're all pretty much, the D2 with the what's the word they use? GFN. That's their version of fancy plastic handles. And or an AUS 8 or an D2. The AUS 8 one, you're looking at about $30. This is $39.95. Or you can get a carbon fiber one in AUS 8 that's $50, I do believe. But this is the one that compares the most in here, so it's the one we're using for this review. Lastly, we have the newest one on the table, the Kershaw Skyline XL. The XL indicating this is a larger version of the Skyline. Now, you can only get these at Blade HQ. And Blade HQ did an interesting thing because the regular Skyline is made in America with, I do believe, Sandvik steel. This is made in China with 8CR 13 MOV. So it was kind of an interesting choice. I'm surprised they didn't just keep making them in America, but I don't know what the contract negotiation was, but Kershaw decided to move it overseas for this. I guess they had to retool anyway, so the blown-up larger one is made overseas and actually cheaper than the regular one. The regular one, you're looking at like $50. This is, again, same as the Rat Model 1 and D2, $39.95 at Blade HQ, which is the only price that matters because it's the only place you can get it. This also comes in various shades of drab. You can get it in olive green or sand. You can get it with different finishes on the blade. This is the stonewash blade. You can get a black or a black wash. So, all right, let's get all these guys back out here together and explain what the rules are going to be for this. I have two Rat Model 2s or Rat Model 1s out there. So hard. Okay, I gotta make sure I got the right one. I didn't want to screw it up and grab the wrong one. I had them both open next to each other in the same place. I was like, I don't know which one is which. You have to look and see if it's AUS 8 or D2 because other than by the eye, they're identical. So I don't have microvision. I can't see the makeups of steel from a foot away. So, all right, the rules are same as we did for the last one of these triple threats we did. We're going to have multiple categories. The categories are aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, carry, and deployment. The one that wins the category gets 3 points. The one that finishes second gets 2. The one that finishes last gets 1. If there are ties, no one gets any points. But in this particular review, there were no ties. So the point totals are going to seem really high, but it's because there were no ties. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to what matters. Let's get to the scoring and get this done. First category is aesthetics. Now, right off the bat, none of these are lookers. They're not. They're $40 big knives that are meant for doing some crap. I don't think anybody put too much effort into the aesthetics of these. None of them look offensively horrible, but there's nothing flashy. There's nothing cool about them. There's nothing that's going to make you, ooh, I want to touch it. They just look like big, good, solid knives, which is what they are. I do have to say that by looks, we're gonna go from worst to first, I think is what we're gonna do. Aesthetics, I have to say worst is the rat, because it's just, this knife just does nothing for me looking at it. Just aesthetically, it just does nothing for me. It just looks like a knife, and there's nothing that remotely excites me about this. None of these knives excite me a whole lot, but this one is just like, yeah, it's a bit of a snooze as far as the looks go. Nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's ugly, but just doesn't do much for me. Now, the Cara 2, I do kind of like the look of it, but it does. I've always thought that the Byrds look just a bit awkward. But it's still, they made an effort. It's swoopy. It has that cool blade shape, and they're the cool little, I like the Byrd, not the blade shape, but the Byrd hole. I kind of like that. It's at least distinctive. So this finishes in second place in the aesthetics category. But the winner is the Skyline XL. This looks pretty cool. I mean, it doesn't look terribly exciting, but it looks cool. You can tell an effort was made. That big choil is kind of distinctive, the little swoop at the end of the handle. This is all right. I can live with this. So this is the one that is going to win. But none of them are like blow me away, great looking knives. Now, next up, flipping to page 2 on my notes, as what Harvey would say. What was his? Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey, page 2. That was the worst Paul Harvey impression in the history of mankind. And I hope it's Paul Harvey and I didn't say the wrong name. It is Paul Harvey, right? Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I used to work at an AM radio station. I heard it playing all the time, and I thought it was Paul. Good day. Now, quality-wise. All right. This one was a little harder to choose. We'll, again, go worst to first. Worst is going to be the Cara 2, but it is the best built Byrd that I've ever touched. I've only ever had 3. I had this Cara 2, the stainless steel one, and I had a Robin 2. And it is the best built, excuse me, the best built one of them, but it's not great. It's good for $32. It's great, but yeah, I do like the look of this. This is cool. Again, this is part of the reason why aesthetics, it finished second. At least it has this. This is kind of a cool looking thing. There's not a whole lot of sharp edges when it's closed and you have it in your hand. This Spidey hole is pretty sharp edge, and when it's open and you're really squeezing it, there are just a few, not sharp edges, but things that, like these aren't quite flush, little things like that. But it's good for $33. It's fantastic, but and definitely the best built Byrd I've ever handled, but not quite as good as the other two. So a reluctant third place to the Cara 2. Best Byrd you can buy, I think, but not quite as good as the other two. Now, in second place, we have the Kershaw Skyline XL. Really good for a Chinese-built Kershaw, but it's just not quite as great as the Rat Model one is. It just doesn't quite make it. Again, something I forgot to mention earlier while we're looking at quality and stuff, it only has a liner on one side, which is cool. That's why it's so light. It's just got G10 on the other side, and it doesn't need it. It's still plenty tough. But blade centering is really good. It's kind of hard to tell. It looks off because of that's why I mentioned the one-sided liner, because I forgot to mention earlier. You can see it looks like it's off, but it isn't. It's just that one handle is a bit thicker than the other. Yeah, it's good. Again, it's pretty good, but it's not great. So the winner in the quality category is the Rat Model 1. It just feels like a quality piece when you have it in your hand. It wins just by that overall feel. There's nothing that really jumps out at me as being better than the other two. There's no like one feature I'm like, oh my god, this is great, but it does feel good in the hand. I tested the screws on all of these. None of them did anything that impressed me enough to make one better than the other. But it's just that overall quality feel. It just feels like a solid, nice quality piece. So quality, I got to give the win to the Rat Model 1 D2. I don't have to specify the D2 anymore, right? You guys realize that that's not what I have here on the table. Now, as far as blades, these two are 8CR13 MOV. This is D2. We're done. I mean, pretty much. D2 steel is so much better. And at this price, D2's a really good tool steel. 8CR13 MOV is a budget steel. I'm kidding. We're going to talk more, but obviously the Rat Model 1 would win just on blade steel alone unless it had a ridiculous blade shape, which it doesn't. I actually like the blade shape of this the best also. It's a full flat grind. You are looking at a blade thickness of 0.11 inches and a fairly robust tip. Not crazy robust, but fairly robust. Enough to do some real work with. The full flat grind makes it a great slicer. It's a very, very good slicer. I like a lot of flat with just enough belly on it. This is an easy winner in this category. It's a runaway, lapped the field winner. Second place goes to the Kershaw Skyline XL because, as I said, if you're going to get 8CR13 MOV, you get it from Kershaw. They know what they're doing with this stuff, and they do it better than anybody else. I'd rather have Kershaw's 8CR13 MOV than OS 8, and so for that reason, it finishes above the Byrd. It, again, is a pretty good blade shape. Again, a fairly thick, you're looking at 0.12, so still like fairly thin overall stock, but again, a pretty robust blade. This is a hollow grind, so it isn't quite the slicer that I find the Rat 1 to be, but it's not too far off. It's still pretty good. It can still definitely get some work done, and it's still a pretty good, tough blade. Just 8CR13 OV, you're going to sharpen more than D2, but the one you're going to sharpen the most is the Byrd Cara 2. Spyderco, the way they do 8CR13 MOV, I know this is Byrd, but it's owned by Spyderco. They just don't do it quite as tough as Kershaw does, and again, you're looking at a full flat grind, which should be good, and you're looking at a blade thickness of 0.13, but I don't know, it's just the way they cut the tip would kind of concern me a bit if I'm doing some heavy duty stuff, and I just don't like the overall blade shape as much as I like the other two, but it's mostly just the steel is why this one is going to finish third. So, alright. Now, ergonomics. This one was a bit tougher because all these are pretty good ergonomically, especially for the price. They're pretty good. But I have to give a reluctant third place to the Cara 2. It still feels okay in the hand. It feels good. I have large hands, skinny fingers, like really long fingers. And the only two reasons it finishes third, it feels good in the hand. There's no hot spots. I love that you can choke up on it. That's good, especially for a blade this size. Nice to be able to choke up a bit. But I can wrap my hands all the way around it, and I don't know, it feels kind of thin in the hand. And again, that sharp spidey hole, that's why it finishes third. Because, ergonomics, and also when you push on the back lock, that's a bit sharp too. So not crazy sharp, but just a bit. So that's why it finishes in third place for ergonomics. Now, in second place, we have, this was really close. I really couldn't decide. It almost came down to a coin flip. But I'm going to have to give second place to the Rat Model 1. There's nothing wrong with it ergonomically at all. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's the only one of these three that is not G10. It's the fancy plastic, and it just doesn't feel as good. It feels slipperier. It just doesn't feel quite as good in my hand. I mean, it's not going to slip out. I mean, you got a good choil there to put your finger in. You have good jimping to hold on to, but it just doesn't feel as good in the hand as the other two do. So that's why this is in second place. It feels more comfortable in the hand than this does, just really gripping on it, but this feels a little grippier. But the shape of the handle makes this finish second over the Cara 2. Better shape, not as good of materials. There we go. Now I finally explained it. It took us a while to get there, but we got there, guys. Now, the Skyline XL finishes first because it feels great in the hand. It feels really good. It's one of the more comfortable knives that I own. The way that choil fits me perfectly. The G10 is just the right amount of grippy without being too crazy. It's a very, very, very good ergonomic knife. The only problem I have with it is there is zero jimping on this knife anywhere. There's nothing to... It'd be nice to be able to have some jimping up here to put your finger on, but I'm a stickler for jimping, I guess, so yeah. But still wins, but it could be better still. Now, in carry, this is also one that was hard to decide on because these are all pretty big knives that all three carry pretty well, actually. They all carry pretty good. They're not bad at all. I have them all configured tip up. And on the Kershaw, it's tip up, tip down, right hand only. The Cara and the Rat Model 1 are all 4-way. So you have more carry options on these two. And that's kind of the way that it kind of gives a preview to how things went. The worst one I thought for carry was the XL. It's still pretty good for a knife this size, but I found that tip down was the best way to carry it. I may have said tip up earlier, I'm sorry. Tip down was the best way to carry it, but when you do, the flipper tab, moves everything kind of over a bit, so it's still a bit hard to get your hand by. If you carry it tip up, then yes, you can get your hand by it easier, but then you have the flipper tab sticking out and there's a lot sticking out of your pocket. So this finishes last. It still, again, carries well for a knife this size, but it's not as good as the other two. In second place, we have the Cara 2. I had to look at my own notes there for a second. Again, I carry this tip up, and I thought these things would be kind of rough going by on your hand. I know there's kind of decorative or lightning holes or whatever, but it wasn't bad. You don't feel anything. It carries all right, but they probably would have won, except that there is a lot that sticks out of your pocket. And yeah, it's just, and it is taller, when it's folded. This is a very tall blade when it's folded. So I could still get, my test I always use is to get my little pocket wallet in and out. And I could get my pocket wallet in and out very easy with any of these, but this wasn't quite as good as the Rat Model 1. Is just a little bit better getting stuff in and out. There's no sharp edges whatsoever when it's in your pocket. Carries fairly deeply, not great, but again, these are big knives, so I don't sweat that as much. I'm not going to complain about no deep carry pocket clips like I would as much on a smaller knife, because these are big. People are going to know it's in your pocket anyway. So yeah, this is just slightly better in the carry. So this was a pretty close category, but the Rat Model 1 is the winner. Lastly, we have deployment, which was not a terribly close category. We're going to go... I'm kind of spoiling it right by the way I lined them up, but the worst one for deployment, it has to be the Cara 2. I like the Spyderco backlock, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not exciting. This is... I never have successfully spidey flicked this, and I did tear it apart and lube it and all that stuff, and it's just not a really flickable knife. This is a thumb open knife, and again, that sharp spidey hole, it's a bit uncomfortable to do that. Now that I'm done with the review on this, I do like it enough that I'm going to keep it around, so I'll probably, take a cylindrical file and, round this out a little bit. But, and then backlock, again, also kind of sharp. I'll probably file that down too, but it's just not... It's not awesome for deployment. The back lock is very strong. I have nothing to, probably the strongest lock here, but it's just not that great to deploy. It's not fun in any way. And I know these are supposed to be working knives, is what I started this video out as explaining, but this is just not a blast. Doesn't excite me. Not a knife I'm ever going to pull out and fiddle with. Second place, Kershaw Skyline XL. This runs on bushings. It is a flipper. They are decent bushings, but not... you still have to give it a bit of a wrist flick to really flick it out. And I've put some miles on this thing, and it's not really getting any better. It's not bad. It's fine for a $40 big knife like this. It's fine, but it's just not. And you see, it doesn't have that bang. It sounds kind of plasticky when it opens. I don't like that. So it's in second place. It does have a thumb deployment also, which works, but I don't use it because I really only pretty much use the flipper on it. Because if I have a flipper, I'm going to use it. If I have to deal with having a flipper stick out, I might as well use it, right? You can see, like right there, I didn't get it open all the way. So it's good, but it's not great. The Ontario Rat Model 1, easy win for this. They do a great job, runs on bronze washers, and they just work fantastic. Only thumb stud deployment, but that's all you need. It opens and closes fantastically. It's not quite fall shutty, but it's pretty close for $40 and running on bushings. It's just as good as the steel will cut jacks that are also in kind of the same price category, but a little smaller. Very, very good deployment. Very fun. It's cool, and it makes a nice solid bang when it opens. I like that in a deployment. I want it just to hear bang. I just think that would be really, really. I just really like that sound. All right, so I think we're done. What is our conclusion now? It's come to the big moment in scores. If you guys been keeping score at home, you've probably already figured it out. And if you have, I got to question your life choices. If you're sitting here with a pen and a paper counting up my scores as I go along and checking my math, then you need a hobby and something other than knives, I would suggest. Anyway, let's get to it. In last place is the Cara 2 with only 8 points, which is not a lot compared to the other ones. But I have to say, I do still really like this. If you like Spyderco's, you've considered an Endura, but wanted something that wasn't FRN and something a little bit, because most of theirs are not FRN, the FRCP. If you wanted something that wasn't, the plasticky Spyderco's, and you wanted something with G10, but you wanted the big Endura size, it's still a great choice, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with this knife at 30. Again, it's the cheapest one. It's $33. So I think it's done very well. It really impressed me. I kind of got it as just on a whim to finish out. I want to make this a 3-way battle, and this was the right price and matched the other two, so it's the one I went with. I like the stainless Cara 2 I had before, okay, but I like this a lot better. This is going away. I like this a lot better. So yeah, it's a good knife. It just wasn't as good as the ones that it went up against, which makes sense because both of these are a lot newer than this. So, design taste change. So great knife, but not in the same league as the other two. In second place, because this is going to tell you who the winner is. Drum roll. In second place, the Kershaw Skyline XL. I just couldn't get past the 8CR13 MOV. I know I said Kershaw does it the best, and I couldn't get past the fact that I don't know why they didn't just make this in America. It's a good knife. It's very comfortable in your hand. I probably will keep it. I'm not sure, but it's a larger Skyline, which the Skyline is great. It's always a good thing. As I said, lots of good things to love about this knife. It is pretty heavy duty. It is very well made, but it's made in China with 8CR13 MOV, and I just couldn't quite get past that, even though it's got G10 and the winner doesn't. So the obvious winner, because it's the only one left, the Ontario Rat Model 1 in D2. Everybody loves this knife, and there is a reason why. It is very, 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 very good. For $40, it is great. It's outstanding for $40. D2 steel and a great blade shape. That's the most important thing you're looking for. And when you boil it down to a budget knife, you buy the one with the best blade and the best blade steel, and you figure the other stuff out. That's what my thought is anyway. And this is the epitome of that. I don't like the fancy plastic handles, but you can get it in carbon, but then you can't get the D2. It's weird. I don't understand that. It comes in a smaller version called the Rat Model 2 that is currently only AUS 8, but there is a D2 version coming, allegedly. So, yeah, this is very well made, very good company, very comfortable in the hand, and D2 steel, which is a great steel for if you're going to be out doing heavy-duty work, holds an edge forever, It's not a total nightmare to sharpen. It is not 100% stainless, but all you got to do is just put some oil on it every now and then. And even that, it's just D2. I think you just clean it. I don't think you really need to worry about oiling the hell out of it all the time. Just keep it clean and it'll be fine. But very clear winner with 16 points versus the XL's 13 points. The Ontario Knife Company Rat Model 1 in D2 steel. Wow, this has been a long video. I just looked at the running time. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hope you sit through the whole thing. Have a good one. I've been Brian. Enjoy your day.